We continue to interview candidates as we approach the Seattle primary election. That happens in August.
Thaddeus Whalen says Seattle needs bold, progressive leadership. He's the candidate to deliver it, he says. He's a North Seattle resident, an Army vet, and former federal policy staffer that is, who wants to overhaul how the city handles homelessness, policing, and housing. Why? Thanks for being here first.
It's wonderful to be here, genuinely.
Why do you want to be the mayor of Seattle?
Being a federal, I'm actually currently a federal worker, and I'm still with the FAA as of right now. I've seen firsthand what federal overreach and a heavy hand can cause, how it can cause problems for even just regular people. And involving myself inside of the Seattle city government has always been it's been my dream for a decade at this point. And seeing that we have a crisis on our hands just everywhere, from our transportation to our policing structure to our housing. I've spent the better part of my adult life studying and being prepared for this, and I want to bring that to Seattle's voters and to its municipal.
So let's get into that a little bit. What are some of the top issues you think face the city of Seattle?
I would genuinely say that the first step on this is housing costs. That's probably what everyone says, but from everywhere, from your retirees to your young individuals who are just trying to rent, to your mid-range individuals who are just trying to buy a home. All of that is far too expensive, and the city with the comp plan has a very strong ability to adjust and work to change that so that we can actually have affordable housing for everybody, not just me, not just your homeowners, but everybody.
Thaddeus, what about drugs? We had one candidate in last week who said it should just all be legalized. Where do you land on that?
Legalization of drugs is the genuine way to get to harm reduction, and I'd agree with that wholeheartedly. The main problem that happens with drugs is when you criminalize it, and I hate to bring this to kind of like our current events with the ICE raids that are happening within the city. Once you criminalize it, and once you start attacking people for doing these things that are effectively civil in nature, you are causing them to go into the shadows and hurt themselves more. We can provide proper services to make certain that these people get the help that they need, and we can make certain that they are seen out of those problems rather than mired within them and without any help to go to.
Well, how would that work? We're in a state, a nation that has criminalized drugs. How does that work on a local level?
A lot of it is just enforcement. The greatest line that I've ever heard is something is only illegal as long as it's enforced. And a lot of that comes down to just saying, hey, don't charge these people with crimes. Don't put them in jail. Don't fine them. Don't let them lose their jobs, their homes, their livelihoods. Let's get them in contact with a social worker. Let's get them in contact with a hospital. Let's make certain that they have those positive resources, and they know that they are cared for, and they have somebody to actually come to it when they actually have problems.
You mentioned you've been here 10 years, which is kind of a short time. What have you done how have you been able to understand how Seattle works?
It's being a migrant to the city. This is actually kind of a normal thing for a lot of Seattle residents. There's actually good research saying that about 60% of Seattle residents are first generation. I'm part of that, and I want my mom to come up here. I want her to retire here. All of that is because I have done massive amounts of research on this city. I pore over items. I love this city. I am a huge Seattle sports fan. I want the Sonics to return. I want this to be the city that I live and die in. I have found a home here, and while it may sound strange, found homes are something of a normalcy in my life, and I'm very happy to say that Seattle is that.
A lot of our listeners tell us they are concerned with Seattle's issues with crime. We have seen crime rates overall go down over the past couple of years, but I would be hard pressed to tell someone in Pioneer Square, in the Chinatown International District, Capitol Hill, that it's not a problem. Talk to me about what your administration would do to approach crime in Seattle.
That's actually what I did a lot of my thesis research on. I did my thesis research on the Seattle Police Department and the Seattle police officers killed. And actually, I can confirm with this that there's actually kind of a diasporatic reaction when it comes to crime. We've seen major, what you would call like violent crimes go down, murders, etc. But we've actually seen shoplifting and petty theft and B&E having a slight uptick. And that is genuinely down to a socioeconomic condition that people are just not getting what they need. We don't pay people enough to live in our city. People are struggling to survive. And a lot of that comes down to just making certain that people have their basic needs met. And that goes back to the housing costs, that goes to the grocery prices, and that goes to having your social net able to live with you in the city as well, making certain that you are socially provided for just as well as physically.
Would you say Seattle has a gang problem?
No, not at all. Especially not considered to other cities within the United States, especially in the current era. Gang situations have been falling precipitously. And on top of that, the main way to solve that is through third spaces. You need to give people some place to be where you don't have to spend money to be there. That's something that I had as a child. Even I was able to go to a rec center in Texas, even if it was tiny, a YMCA. But all those are kind of starting to dry up, and that's just due to the cost of doing business in Seattle right now, and mostly down to rent prices.
So it's your contention that the recent shootings involving Glock switches, we're talking Pioneer Square and elsewhere, those have nothing to do with gang violence?
Those are, as I was saying before, we are seeing a decrease in those violent crimes, and those definitely have a place. I'm not saying that there is a problem. To me, is something that is completely out of hand, and we do not have the resources to solve it right now. And while I would say that we have plenty of, we still have an issue with it, I wouldn't call it a problem insofar as we need to tear this up at the roots rather than attacking the downstream effects.
The city of Seattle has a budget of $7 billion. That's a lot of money. It's a big city to run. Have you been a manager before?
I've done a lot of within the FAA. Actually, I've been privy to a lot of financial income items. A lot of it comes down to how air traffic controllers work in their overtimes. The major thing that comes down to the large budget of the Seattle city government is that a lot of it is going to sources that I would say are being mismanaged and misappropriated. A lot of it, we are currently paying hundreds of millions of dollars to Seattle's police overtime and their legal fees. There's a lot of money in that $7 billion that the city runs and that the city operates that can go to better sources. To kind of bring this back to, say, the gang violence issue, we spend about a 1-to-8 ratio on judges and appellate courts and diversionary courts that we do to the police. That means for every $1 we spend on policing, we spend, or for every $8 we spend on policing, we spend $1 on courts. As our city attorney has actually even said, they're backlogged to a massive degree. This is not a tenable situation, especially if we're trying to solve these problems rather than just beat people over the heads with sticks.
Spend less on police. Are you saying defund the police?
Defund the police was definitely poisoned, and I would not say that.
But you'll be spending less on police.
The CARES Seattle program is phenomenal. A lot of this comes down to police are trained to handle violent crimes, investigations, detectives, that kind of noise. We are asking them to be social workers. We are asking them to handle mental health problems. I can barely help my roommate, and I've known them for a decade at this point. And we're asking someone in full battle rattle and a taser and a gun to come in and hopefully handle this random person well without a college degree and an understanding in how people operate on a regular basis. I'm a little bit skeptical of that presumption, and a lot of times that has held true. There's quite a few like the CARES Seattle program just here is phenomenal, and I have a very large issue with how the Seattle Police Officers Guild has actually been bargaining. They've actually got it in their contract that the Seattle CARES program cannot exceed 25 members underneath the current contract. And that means that we cannot have more directed responses to these types of problems because of somebody else's decision. And I don't believe that that's the right way to handle these kinds of problems.
You have said officers should divest from the union. What is the right way? What does that look like?
Genuinely, we need our police officers to be employees of the municipality. And that has been we have a municipal workers union. We have the Seattle Workers Union. All of those items have been incredible at making certain that people are getting fair wages. They're getting work time off, and we have one of the best minimum wages in the entire country here in Seattle, and I'm very proud of that. The main issue here, specifically with the Officers Guild, is that they have utilized their bargaining power to bargain with the blood of Seattle. And that's not me saying that. That is the judge in the Federal Oversight Board. I don't like to hyperbolize when I talk about the police, like saying defund and such. What I do want to say is that the Officers Guild, their president and their bargaining team have made it their mission to make as much money as possible and make this and make the city barely safe enough for them to just get more money when the next contract is up.
Isn't that the role of unions a lot of time, to get as much money as they can for their workers?
But that's where this is where we get into the conversation of what does a union provide, and a union is generally workers working in unison to compete and or negotiate with a larger capital owner. That is, and that's just the generality of it. There's a lot of smaller pieces to this, but the Seattle Police Union on this front is not bargaining for against a larger entity, against a larger capital owner. They're bargaining against the people of Seattle, and that's kind of where I would say they need to be brought under the umbrella of the actual City Workers Union. The City Workers Union fights in the same way. But they have completely removed themselves from bargaining with the Seattle Police Officers Guild, because what the Officers Guild has been asking for and how they bargain was so toxic to them that they completely removed themselves from it. They did not want to be a part of it, and they are still getting positive results even without the Seattle Police Officers Guild being a part of them.
Why should Seattle voters believe you can take this on?
It's a new era. We have been seeing a lot of inside of America, we are seeing a new era in politics. We are seeing, and a lot of experience right now is kind of what I would call out the window, what our understanding of politics and how we need to defend and attack and make different needs met in our cities, in our state, and in our country is going to be a new thing. Whether that be from the current state of the ICE raids going on, the billions of dollars for transportation and sound transit that are completely up in the air while the Trump administration is active, and even going insofar as just say basic vehicle safety and the safety of our streets from to not be run over by cars and having like proper crosswalks. All of that comes down to having a willingness to see the problem that actually exists in front of us. And I believe that genuinely a fresh set of eyes in our political sphere is what is needed. And I'm pretty young. I feel like these eyes are kind of fresh.
Well, let me just ask you, we just have a moment left, but could you maybe describe a management challenge you have faced when you consider the enormity of the role of the mayor of Seattle? He or she faces challenges day in and day out that are rather unexpected. Can you describe a management challenge you have faced in your career that might speak to what you would do as mayor?
The best place that I can say this is genuinely going back to my military service. Back when I was stationed down at Joint Base Lewis McChord, and that's how I fell in love with the Pacific Northwest. Actually, the major situation that was happening is that I was never listed as a non-commissioned officer. I was never asked directly to be a leader in that front. However, when push came to shove, my leadership expected me to be able to lead the rest of us lower enlisted and such, in making certain that things happened. Sometimes that came down to making certain that plans and presentations and con ops were completed on time and made certain that they were up to standard. But that was what I was asked to do. And even as I was young and frankly didn't even want that responsibility, it was a requirement that I was happy to take on, because it made certain that we went home and we were happy when we laid our heads down at night. And whether that and those problems were wide-ranging, whether it became a situation of making certain that our superiors had what they needed to do so that they could talk to their people, or even being able to list a plan down to them and saying, here's what's going on in front of you. We need to do X, Y, and Z. That's genuinely what my job was in the military, and I'm very happy that it's kind of become part and parcel with my federal work.
Thanks for your service. Softball, before we let you go. You mentioned you're a huge Seattle sports fan. Easy. What else? What do you love? Oh, God. So I actually do roller skating, of all things. Nice. Shout out to Southgate. The Southgate roller rink is where I'm at on Wednesdays for the LGBT night. And I've gotten really good. I've been going at it for about 4 years now. And 4 years? Yeah. And the community down there is wonderful. They are phenomenal. Shout out Roll Around Seatown, the Pony Rollers, etc. All of them are phenomenal. Okay, quads are in line. Quads, absolutely. This is why I have a shattered wrist that's crooked. I'm a roller skater too. So genuinely, if and this is to say this: if you're gonna skate, please wear pads. Please wear wrist guards. It is a it is a sport. It is very much and you can get injured. I'm very lucky that I have not been seriously injured while doing so, and it's been a phenomenal time to just kind of be around the community and actually get myself outside of the office or outside away from my cats. All right, mayoral candidate and safety advocate Thaddeus Whalen on the August ballot for Seattle mayor. Thaddeus, thanks for joining us today. Thank you for having me. Nice to meet you. Take care.